Well, we say that we love a lot of things, don't we? Like we might love our coffee or we love our sports teams. The NFL's getting ready to kick off pretty soon. Some of us love shopping. One of the things I love is pickleball. And I've just really enjoyed shopping for a new paddle recently, and it's really improved my game. I love the way I'm playing now because of that new paddle. Whenever we love something, we kind of invest in it. And we give ourselves to it, and because it's what we care about. We see opportunities rather than obstacles. But one of the things that I really love is I love our church. There's a couple of ideas when it comes to churches. There's that capital C church, that church universal, some scholars call it, which means that just the church in general, all around the world, meeting in all of its various ways and all of its different people. But a majority of the time, the New Testament refers, when they talk about the church, it's really that local church family. And I love the church overall. It's so incredible and beautiful. But I love this church, Fellowship Church, in an incredible way. I just love our church. I'm here to tell you, I'm not just a pastor of this church or of a church. I'm a product of this church. I'm a product of doing life with you all the time. Throughout the whole decades that I've been here, there have been many people who've prayed for me, taught me, loved me, befriended me, cared for me, encouraged me. I discovered my giftings here. I learned how to serve people here. I learned how to worship God here, to read my Bible, to pray to God. I met my wife Laura here. I was married here. We dedicated all of our children here. They were raised in this church as well. And I've celebrated countless Easters and Christmases together with you. And just being a part of this church family, it has formed me. It has shaped me. It's how I see this world, and it's built resilience in me. And I've been inspired by your stories, by your faith, the hope that you live your life with, even though it may not be perfect. I've shared in the losses that you've experienced and in some of your greatest wins. Guys, when it comes to Fellowship Church, there's a lot to love. I was just talking to somebody outside of our church last week who had been a part of our church family and had moved out of state. They came back to visit us, and you could see that she felt like she was just came back home. And we talked a little bit after one of the services, and she told me how this church is like her home. And coming back here just brought all kinds of emotions back to her, and how that she just felt just so close to this place. And I loved hearing that. And it's not the first time I've heard a story of this. Our church is really special. But you know what I think makes our church special? It's not just all the people in it, but it's also the mission that we have. And you've heard me say this mission before. It's to help people find and follow Jesus. This is why we exist. And we have a strategy of how we go about this. We call it encounter, encourage, and engage. We want people to encounter Jesus, to have an honest hearing of who he is. And then we want to carry ourselves in such a way that we're encouraging one another to be able to live more like him. And then ultimately, we want to engage with Jesus, not just on Sundays, not just when we gather together in a large way or even in a space like this, but we want to engage with Jesus every moment of our life. We want to practice the presence of God in our life every day. So over time, when you're involved in a church, it's easy to start to get comfortable with it, isn't it? For instance, if you attend here on campus, you come in, the air conditioning works, the bathrooms are nice, they're clean, you can get free coffee and tea here and maybe even a snack. You're surrounded by people who love you. It's easy to get focused on this place, in here, this space. But here's what's amazing. God's love is so big, his heart is so great, that this place is also not just for those who are in here, but also for those who are not here yet. And you know what? I'm so grateful for that. And hopefully you are too, because we were all out there before we were in here, right? And so there are people who are not here yet who need a healthy, loving, biblical community like this place, just like you have. There's people out there who are lonely and fearful. They're frustrated. They're certainly overwhelmed these days. And they all need to know and experience that they're not alone, that the answer is Jesus. So what I love about our mission is that there's a focus on the outsider as well as the insider. As a matter of fact, we have language for this here in our church. We call it the empty chair. And every time we gather, there are empty chairs that are among us. And those empty chairs serve as a reminder of our mission, that we exist to help bring people from out there to in here. And so it affects our decision making. It affects our priorities. It affects how we talk and how we where our attention is. Because as diverse as our stories are, there are some similarities to all of them. And one of them is this, that somebody, somewhere, influenced us and helped us to get to know Jesus. So guys, when you really love someone or something, it does our heart good to kind of go back to the roots of what it is that we love, right? That's why we have birthdays and we celebrate anniversaries. We remember and sometimes retell how life or relationships began. Well, today I want to look at a book in the Bible that Luke wrote. He was a follower of Jesus. And this book is called the Acts of the Apostles. Now, what it is it's a document that describes the earliest church community as it was being formed in some of its early years. Now, the book begins at the very beginning with the final words of Jesus to his disciples, and we pick it up in Acts 1, verse 8. And Jesus says to his disciples, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses." Key word, witnesses. Telling people about me everywhere, in Jerusalem, throughout Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Well, after saying this, he was taken up in a cloud while they were watching, and they could no longer see him. So what is being written here, what Luke is describing, is the ascension of Jesus and his final words. And one of those words, as I said earlier, was witnesses. In other words, what he means here, he says, you're going to represent me. You're going to tell people about me everywhere. And the book of Acts is about how God used this small group of people who turned into a larger group of people and eventually became multiple groups of people to spread the good news of Jesus by way of the church throughout the Roman Empire and beyond. And now here we are, recipients of this. The good news of Jesus moving from person to person, community to community, nation to nation, still to this day. That good news of Jesus coming along to you on the way to someone else. And still today, God can use you as a powerful witness to his work in people's lives. You know, that empty chair reminds us that we exist to number one, introduce people to Jesus. You know, Acts opens with this ascension of Jesus, and it's kind of funny. We celebrate the birth of Jesus at Christmas, his crucifixion and resurrection at Easter, but we don't talk a whole lot about his ascension. You know, what's the significance of the ascension, if there is any? Well, it's at the ascension where Jesus hands the baton off to his followers that leads to this era that we're currently in. Some scholars call it the church age. So while we are in this era, what's Jesus doing? Well, he's doing a few things. First of all, he's ruling. Now, we talked about this a few weeks ago at our church. You know, John gets this clear vision of Jesus in Revelation 1 where he sees that Jesus is in charge, even though the world is in chaos. Jesus isn't distracted. He's not aloof. He knows what's going on, and he's engaged and he's working. Now, it doesn't mean that everything that happens is in accordance with his will. We have Satan and his minions who are always trying to distract and create chaos. We have our own flesh that gets in the way of doing what God would have us to do, and we many times choose to not do his will. So he's ruling even though things are not always perfect. So he's engaged. But secondly, he's also advocating for us. Satan, one of the things he does is that he's a liar and he's also a tempter. And so he lies to us, he tempts us to sin. And then when we do, he accuses us of that sin. And what does Jesus do? He defends us. He stands up for us. Even when we've screwed up, he says, he's with me or she's with me. I died for this person. I gave my life for them, and they are part of the family of God. The third thing that he has done is that he has sent his Spirit as well, the Holy Spirit. And you heard that in those words. The Holy Spirit is God, and he's our helper and our teacher. He guides and strengthens us. He gifts us to continue to do the work of Jesus as we learn and grow to love each other well. And he's also preparing our reward. So John 14:3. After Jesus has this moment with these disciples in the upper room, he says, when everything is ready, I'm going to come and I'm going to get you. So he's kind of talking about his ascension, leaving and then coming back. He says, I will come back to get you so that you'll always be with me where I am. This place will eventually one day have no evil and no darkness, no sickness and no pain. We're talking about the second coming of Jesus. So those are some things that Jesus is doing right now. And so the question for us is, so what? What does this matter to us? Well, it means a whole lot. It means that we're never forgotten, that we are loved incredibly, that Jesus is paying attention. He's caring for us. You heard all the things that he's doing for us. So when we're overwhelmed by things or anxiety-ridden by our fears because of uncertainty, there's a reason to hope because Jesus is still at work. And he's not stopping. And he's not changing his mind. He's still moving in that direction. So after Jesus gives the mission to his disciples, he ascends to heaven. And he says, you're going to be my witnesses. Now, again, let's go back to that word witness. That word witness is used multiple times, over 30 times. The disciples and others are consistently sharing what they know of Jesus to others. What they've seen and what they've heard is the language that Luke uses. And this is what God is, you're saying, this is what God has done in my heart. This is how he's changed me. This is why I follow him. This is why I don't have to be afraid or overwhelmed or be out of control with anger. The word for witness eventually in that first century became synonymous with the word martyrs. These men and women, what we're learning here is that they gave up everything for Jesus, because we'll do that when we love someone, right? Well, they did it in big ways, and they did this in everyday ways as well. And they did this, by giving their lives in some cases. But a lot of times they did this just by responding with kindness rather than aggression when aggression was sent their way. Whenever they turned the other cheek rather than make a situation even. You're a witness every day when you love and serve other people, when you tell the truth to people, when you support the local church here, even when you go public with your faith through baptism. Baptism is commanded by Jesus. He thought of it as so important that he himself was baptized. His cousin John baptized him. Can you imagine this? John, I want you to baptize me. No way, you're the Son of God. John knew who Jesus was. Yet Jesus says, no, I want you to baptize me. He humbled himself for baptism as an example for all of us. So when you're baptized, you're showing others what Jesus has done and what he's doing in your life. You're saying through the act of baptism that Jesus is my king, that I follow him, that I live by his values and his ways. Now, I'm not talking about infant baptism. I'm talking about knowingly submitting yourself to Jesus through baptism. Your personal decision, not your parents' decision. Your willingness to do this. People are recorded of having done this throughout all of that book of Acts that Luke wrote, and all throughout church history. Paul writes about it in Romans 6. He says, have you forgotten that when we were joined with Christ Jesus in baptism, We joined him in his death, for we died and we were buried with Christ by baptism. And just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glorious power of the Father, now we also may live new lives. When you're baptized, Paul's writing, he says you are identifying yourself as part of God's community. And what's amazing is that while there's a tension and strife in our world, churches like Fellowship, we're thriving because our hope is based on someone greater than what we can see in this world. Jesus' ways transcend this kind of crazy season that we're living in. So we must be about being a witness and introducing others to Jesus. And I want to just say that next week is a perfect week to do this. This is the week that we would invite people to what we call the last blast. You know, many of you maybe for you that's watching, the last blast might have been the first time you attended this church, or maybe you know somebody who that was their story. You know, remember, the good news came to you on the way to someone else. And even now, God has placed someone on your heart and mind maybe to talk to about the last blast, this big event that we have, the outdoor service, baptisms that take place, a lunch that we all gather together with, and then a fair-like atmosphere where we just have fun together and celebrate and enjoy what God is doing in our community. And man, the more the merrier when it comes to this. And so if God has placed something on your heart, somebody on your heart to bring with you, chase that. Talk to them about that. And, you know, God has you on mission these days. You're a witness still today, just like those first century disciples were. Your life has great purpose and meaning when it's connected to Jesus. So not only are you a witness, but you're also a follower of Jesus, right? Remember our mission to help people find and follow Jesus. So back to Acts, what Luke was writing. Verse 10, he says, as they strained to see him rising into heaven, 2 white-robed men suddenly stood among them. Now, guys, these are angels. And he said, men of Galilee, why are you standing there staring into heaven? Jesus has been taken from you into heaven, but someday he'll return from heaven in the same way that you're seeing him go. These angels, they call out these disciples for staring, right? They're like, hey, take a picture, it'll last longer. I mean, it's kind of cold-blooded a little bit, right? But the angels are reminding them in this moment that they are on mission and the clock is ticking and that Jesus will one day return. So he's saying, let's get going. They're saying, you know, Jesus changes everything. Tell the world about this. People need to hear. They need to grow in their relationship with Jesus. God's transforming and changing me, and he's doing the same thing with you as you follow him. And we want to be a community that's helping each other follow Jesus as we develop and grow in our faith. So what does that look like? Well, generally speaking, first, making it a priority to be in environments like this on a regular basis. Second, to be a person who invites. Third, to take a spiritual next step. And for all of us, every next step is unique. For some of us, it's forgiving somebody. For others of us, it's following God's example or what he shows us when it comes to finances. For some of us, it might be joining Celebrate Recovery. Celebrate Recovery is for more than just for people who are suffering from alcohol and drug addictions. That's just a very small percentage of people who attend CR. CR is meaningful and helpful for people who are suffering pain and loss, who are dealing with difficult relationships. I mean, it's an amazing supportive environment. So your next step might be to join a group or to become more known here at our church, or to serve on one of our teams and to do something for your neighbors, maybe even. And fourth, we're always called to give generously of our time and of our resources so that we're able to fund this incredible mission that we have at FC. Guys, we're making a difference in our community, locally, regionally, throughout the world in beautiful ways through our global partners. And every week you hear about how your generosity is connected to these changed lives. So what can we do this week? Well, our main focus this week is preparing for and pulling off this massive celebration of the Last Blast. So you can help by attending Don't skip this event. Your presence matters. Connecting with people matters. You're an encouragement, just you being there to those that are there. People seeing that there's other people that are on the same mission that as they're on encourages their hearts. But also invite people, as I said earlier, invite them to come. Thirdly, commit to serve for an hour at this event. If you haven't, committed to do that today. Just write on let us know electronically how to do that. You want to be on a serving team. And then finally, if you have never been baptized, be baptized. Commit to that today. Let us know you want to be baptized. Celebrations like the Last Blast, they do a few things for us. It reminds us of our mission, sharpens our focus in view of those who are outsiders. It brings purpose and meaning to our lives as we're about something bigger than ourselves. And it teaches us to celebrate. Sometimes we're just so into life, we never take time to celebrate. So if you love our church, like I love our church, would you join me and others in this incredible mission? We want our church to continue to be strong and healthy. We want to be that city on a hill, an example to all. We want to be witnesses of Jesus in our world. So before we gather next week, what are you going to do this week in order to be able to make next week, the Last Blast, an incredible event for everybody who's going to be there? I hope that you will be on mission along with me. I hope that you're inspired to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And this is what's so amazing about the local church. It's an opportunity to be on mission with Jesus and to do his will and to help change lives through what you do, through your time, through your energy, through your gifts, and through your talents. So I hope that you'll join me, that you'll make it a priority to be there. I want to see you there. Say hello to me. And I can't wait, but it's September 8th. We're going to have just this incredible time together. And man, I'm just can't wait. I'm waiting with bated breath for this because I love our church and I love what we're about. So God bless you, and may God use you in an incredible, beautiful way this week to continue to move his mission along in this world.